I scoured Kickstarter to learn the secrets of successful crowdfunding campaigns so I can leverage its power to launch any creative project I want. And I learned some good news and some bad news. In all seriousness, I'm about to launch my first Kickstarter campaign for my fantasy thriller novella, and I wanted to know what separates failed campaigns from ones that succeed to take away into my future projects. And it turns out to be pretty complicated, but in this video I'll do my best to break down what I've discovered so that you can use this info for your projects, be it books or games or whatever else. As for my Kickstarter, it actually just launched today. So if you're interested in heist style stories where they get the team together but no one knows who they can trust, but the target is a tyrant dragon, you will love this book. If you're in Canada or the USA, go check it out and don't miss the early bird rewards for discounts on the signed editions. So, as I began my journey to learn about Kickstarter, I went into it thinking that as long as you have a good product, a decent game idea, or well-written book with a nice cover, and a nice high-quality page, you should be able to do pretty well. But after I pulled data from 50 more or less random Kickstarters, it became clear to me that the campaigns that do the best aren't necessarily the best products. In fact, campaigns that make millions or hundreds and thousands of dollars are almost always big names. People like Brandon Sanderson or Christopher Paolini. Even one step below, people with hundreds and thousands in funding all seem to be authors with a big established audience. And one step below that, people who make tens of thousands often seem to work with big project management companies. So this revealed a hard truth. You can't really escape the fact that the two things that affect your campaign the most seem very much to be, one, credibility, and two, a big audience. So this was definitely disappointing. Most of us don't have terribly big audiences. Even my YouTube channel only goes so far, but I didn't want to leave it at that because I know it's possible for first-time creators to succeed. It happens all the time. Everyone who's good at anything once had to have done that thing for the first time, right? So the question is, how do we maximize our credibility and our reach to maximize our chances for our campaigns to succeed? Well, as I started to look lower and lower down the list at slightly less successful campaigns, a pattern started to emerge. These three columns represent a campaign's visual quality. I gave each campaign a rating for their videos, their graphic design, so things like font, color schemes, and photography, and the artwork. And the trend I noticed is that the less money a campaign earned, the lower quality their visuals tended to be. This isn't a guarantee, there are tons of outliers, but there is a general trend. High quality artwork and showing your face in a video definitely gives your project more credibility. Even just intuitively from my own instinctive reaction, I feel a lot more at ease seeing a person speak confidently about their product than I would if there was no video at all, or if the video was just music and text. Same goes for the graphic design. If someone put in the effort to make their page beautiful, that makes me subconsciously feel that the creator is serious and has the means to get this project done. That's the case for the artwork as well. Now, with that, there was definitely a considerable amount of AI use that I saw, not just in failed campaigns. Some campaigns that succeeded had AI art too. Make of that what you will, but I would urge you to use real art made by a person as much as you can. Now, whether you're in the middle of creating a Kickstarter campaign or you have a game or a book that you eventually want to sell, sooner or later you will need to start telling people about your project. The best way to do that is with some sort of press kit, which the sponsor of today's video, Arcadia, will be hugely helpful with. Arcadia was designed to make the press kit creation process super simple, especially if you're launching a game on Steam, but it also works for any number of projects. You just plug in your screenshots, trailer, and store or social links, and it gives you a clean, good-looking page without the hassle of dealing with more generic website builders. One of the really important features about Arcadia is its built-in newsletter, which means it will enable you to build your own email list instead of relying exclusively on Steam wishlists. Press kits are super important, and thanks to the fact that Arcadia is offering a free early bird tier, there's no reason not to give it a try. Link in the description, and thanks so much to Arcadia for sponsoring this video. Turning back to our Kickstarter research, there's another key strategy that seems to me that every successful campaign uses to increase their chances of funding. If you're lucky enough to have someone actually take an interest in your project, if that person is passionate enough about what you're doing, there's a possibility that that person will be eager to pay more than what you might expect. Some failed campaigns had a very small number of reward tiers whose promise was very vague. The best strategy seems to be to employ a pretty broad range of reward tiers and include some high-end tiers as well. You can bundle your books together, or in my case, I'm offering to edit part of people's manuscripts at the highest tier. The other thing that I think separates the weaker campaigns that only just barely got funded from the ones that really took off to reach 200%, 500%, or even 1000% funded were having good stretch goals. A lot of the just barely funded campaigns didn't didn't even bother or were very vague with their stretch goals. It's very important to give stretch goals a specific number value. You can't just say, I hope maybe I can add X, Y, and Z features in later. You might as well not have any stretch goals if you're going to be that vague. But all of this still fails to address one very important problem: the fact that repeat creators and people with big audiences do better than those coming in with nothing. The more I think about this, the more I'm convinced that your first time campaign is almost like your preliminary proof, your testing ground to see if you can use Kickstarter for bigger projects in the future. But there is another element to all of this that you can't really conclude by just looking at someone's Kickstarter page. So if we turn our attention to some first time creators, a lot of these actually earned a pretty decent amount of money. Nothing you can turn into a stable income if it stays at this level, but a pretty good start that should definitely spark optimism for the rest of us. And that leads me into talking about something very important. Two things really, and it's not something that you can really deduce from looking at these pages. The question is, how did these first time creators find success? I can't go back and see their pre-launch pages and how many followers they had at launch, but I do know that pre-launch followers are a great metric for predicting your campaign's success. It's a lot like Steam wishlists. There's nothing certain about them, but the more you have, the better your campaign is likely to do. So how do you get these pre-launch followers? Well, you have to funnel them. And the best part is that this doesn't mean that you need your own pre-established audience. It's great to build an email list, and you should be doing that, but you can also rely on other people's audiences to get followers. Just like how you'd send your Steam game to streamers, you can send your book to influencers and have them funnel people to your Kickstarter page. And if you're not doing a book, the same goes for whatever you're doing. Recently, Kickstarter has changed the way their pre-launch pages work. Previously, it was just your main marketing image and the notify button. Now you can fill them with content. I can't say anything conclusively as to how much of a difference this makes, but it seems crazy to me to not take advantage of it. Something I believe personally to be very important about your pre-launch page is to make it super explicit all over the page as to why people should click the notify me on launch button. I haven't come across others doing this in my research, but I haven't looked at that many. I was focusing on live campaigns, but it makes sense, especially because a lot of people I've told about my campaign were very confused about how Kickstarter actually works. The other thing that I think is very important is to consider that if you make less money with your Kickstarter, that's okay if your budget is smaller. This is the same argument I make for making small games. If you take less time to make a project, if you invest less money into that project, essentially if you're smart about whatever it is that you're working on, then your funding goal can be smaller and you can still consider it a success. Now there's one thing that I really need to draw attention to, and I'm not sure how widespread a mistake this is, but I did notice 3 particular campaigns that all did this, which is essentially instead of having stretch goals, making your initial funding goal really big. This seems to be a definitive way to make sure your campaign flops. Successful campaigns almost always reach more than double funding, often reaching 10 times what they asked for, and this seems to be the expectation on Kickstarter. Your base funding goal is the absolute low end. You reach it fast, you say we got funded day 1, and that encourages more and more people to support the project because now you've generated that all-important credibility. So whatever your plan is for your project, I hope this video helped you get a bit of a better understanding of Kickstarter. I'm very much still learning, I'm not an expert, but if the video did help you, please check out my Kickstarter page for the Dragon Slayers and don't miss out on the early bird discounted signed copies. There are a ton of awesome rewards to choose from, see which one's best for you, and back my book if it's something that you're interested in. Thank you so much for watching, all the best in your endeavors, and God bless.